We crossed the Strait from Wellington in one of those battered old steamers that seem to defy the laws of physics and probability. These iron clunkers, patched and rusting, somehow keep chugging along the treacherous waters for decades, more from habit than seaworthiness. Every storm, every dent in the coastline, every angry gust from the south seems to beg them to sink. And yet, miraculously, they survive. You'd think their age and condition would doom them, but no, only the paying passengers seem to suffer. Fares are steep, space is tight, and the cabins, if you can call them that, seem designed to cure even the strongest stomach of its appetite. That's what you get when there's no competition. I recall, just a couple of years back, when ships between Australia and New Zealand were monopolised. Steerage fares were outrageous, £3 for a single trip. What did that buy you? Rotting potatoes, leathery meat, cabbage scraps, and tea as murky as swamp water. The food wasn't just bad, it actively killed the will to eat. 3 times a day we were punished by mealtime. Hunger was our only reliable companion. We were saved only by our nighttime heist of the deck cargo, an illicit bounty of oranges and pineapples. If we hadn't risked it, I swear we'd have faced starvation and possibly mutiny. Now, the fares drop to £1, and you might actually get a bite to eat. But we all know what happens next. The cheaper line starves out, fares rise again, and the public grumbles through another overpriced, underfed journey. And all of it proves just one thing. The average traveller is as clueless as the crowd. We've got a theory. Maybe these local captains and crews face peril so often, they just stop caring. Familiarity breeds not contempt, but numbness. Eventually, they feel safer in a storm than in church with their wives. That is, until one day the rust gives out, the engine explodes, or the sea decides it's had enough. Then it's a mad dash to the lifeboats, if there are any. To top it off, I started this trip by losing half a sovereign, our seed money for the South Island adventure. We had just enough, £1, some tobacco, a spare pipe, and a couple of half-crowns. Bought the ticket, with that cursed coin perched on top, wrapped in the paper. Somewhere between the office and the gangway, it vanished. If you've ever lost money like that, you'll understand the progression. First, you casually check your pockets. Then you do it again, panicked. Then you breathe, pretend you're calm, and search systematically. Then you go mad, checking items you didn't even have on you. That £0.50 haunted me. And months later, you'll still find yourself rummaging through old jackets on the off chance luck is hiding there. Once I found a lost coin inside a spare pipe 6 months after I lost it. But that doesn't help when you're staring at an empty pocket tonight. To make things worse, 7 shillings and 6pence of that money was owed to the innkeeper. Losing it felt like some divine punishment. On this vessel, with a storm rolling in and the engine clanking like an overworked sewing machine, I hoped the gods were satisfied with that 10-shilling fine and wouldn't require a life in payment. One sailor told me the ship was solid. He'd take it over any of those flashy liners. A few minutes later, the same man told me he could shove a stick right through the hull. We politely asked him not to demonstrate. Down in the cabin, it smelled like an abandoned closet. 2 families of Assyrians were sprawled across the bunks, sick. A cheerful Māori man was squeezing out a song on a concertina. Between the sickness, the music, and the missing coin, the place became unbearable. I climbed up just in time to meet a face full of spray and a seasick Newfoundland dog. We returned to the cabin, cracked our heads on a bench, and were consoled by a round of drinks with the Māori, courtesy of our remaining funds. At that point, we figured, what's half a sovereign anyway? We'll land on our feet. As the steamer wound through Queen Charlotte's Sound, a jagged sea corridor hemmed in by steep hills, we passed a lighthouse supposedly kept by an old Māori woman. The hills were dusted with white dots. Sheep, someone said. Only land this bad can carry sheep. They survive anywhere, I suppose. Tougher than goats and almost as indestructible as crocodiles. Eventually, we docked at Picton, a dim handful of lights folded into the black coast. On the wharf, we slipped between railway wagons, asked a constable where we were, then wandered into the telegraph office. It was full of laughter and flirting, office girls teasing the clerks, while I, a travel-worn orphan of the Straits, gloomily tapped out a telegram. Wire quid, stumped. Across the street, we found a room above a pub, climbed up to number 8, lit a candle, pulled out some paper, and wrote this story.